Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Construction Record Podcast. I'm digital media editor Warren Frey, and with me today I have,
Hey Warren, Josh Levy here with Document Crunch.
that's where we're going to start. What is Document Crunch? How does it work? And as a preliminary, it's interesting when you guys contacted me. You were there's a lot of AI hype out there, as I'm sure you know better than anybody, and you were very much not that. You're like, here's what AI can't do, even though you are an AI product, from what I can tell. But you tell me what you are and how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great starting point. So Document Crunch really is a contract intelligence platform for the construction
Mhm.
industry. But forget who we are. Let me tell you what we're doing. We're empowering everyone in the construction industry to understand what's in their contracts. And I want to emphasize the term everyone. I don't believe the construction contract should be some black box that only people with suits and ties or lawyers or people in the back office can understand. We believe that everyone should understand their contracts because that makes our industry a better and less risky proposition where profits can go up. And so, happy to talk about the core underlying technology that powers us, which of course does include artificial intelligence as well as some other proprietary, code and heuristics. But the funny thing is, Warren, you know, whatever technology exists out there that helps empower the industry to understand what's in their contracts, Document Crunch will leverage because that is our mission. So I always tell people, I don't think of us as a tech company. I think of us as a company empowering everyone to understand what's in their contracts, but happy to dig into some of the core technology as well. And of course, while we're on the topic of the AI craze, yes, we are the original, you know, machine learning, AI
Mhm.
company helping the construction industry understand their contracts. And yes, some of the advances in this technology feel very similar to some of the advances that were being made when we decided to start this company several years ago. And
Mhm.
so we're really excited about the overall direction of the technology and the AI craze that's going on because it has incredible opportunity and power to realize our mission. All that to be said, I also caution everyone out there to understand that nothing is a panacea. And this
Mhm.
technology, just like the technology that we started implementing 4 years ago when we founded this company, must be tethered to subject matter expertise, data, context, and a product that matters, or else you are just left with a cool, uh, you know, technology that can do cool things like generate a picture of you, a portrait, or write a love letter to your spouse, or whatever it is,
Right.
or even
Mhm.
even portend to do some of the work that you need to do. But you know, with our standard or with our mission in mind, our standards are extremely high and we're going to make sure that any technology that we point toward our customers is appropriately contextualized so that we can deliver real actionable insights to the construction industry to realize the mission that I spoke of.
Now, from what it sounds like, and I'm just guessing here, it sounds like your product takes something, translates it from lawyer into English. Am I right about that?
That's definitely an aspect of what we do. Yes. So I mean, the core functionality of the product is we find critical issues in construction contracts.
Mm.
Kind of answering the first question that I used to get asked as a longtime construction attorney who both has been, outside counsel and inside counsel to the industry. What am I looking for? We do that instantaneously and in an automated way. And why does it matter? Why does what I am looking at matter? And we provide some context and rationale around that as well. And by answering those first two questions, what am I looking for and why does it matter? We allow the end user. So we do believe, and this is again very important when you think about this whole generative AI craze that's going on. We do
Hmm.
believe, even with generative AI, that a human in the loop is absolutely necessary. And in this case, the human in the loop is not us on the document crunch end, it's you, the end user. By arming you
Right.
with the what am I looking for and why does it matter? We allow you to make a very good, informed, contextualized business decision around whatever it is that you're trying to solve within the construction industry. Whether you're out there, you know, um, reviewing a contract for risk before you bid the job, or you're that project manager who just needs to make sure that you have a good working understanding of the contingency provision as you're walking into that OAC meeting.
Mhm.
Either way, we want to be able to arm you with the appropriate information at the appropriate time so that you can make and optimize good decisions throughout the project lifecycle. And that is the basic functionality of the product.
And you mentioned the tech. What is some of the tech? No, not to get super technical because I won't understand it for one, but not to get super technical. But what is some of the underlying technology that this works with?
Yeah, we've of course got our own proprietary user interface, so we're very geared toward workflows that the industry goes through on a day-to-day basis where contract understanding or compliance is necessary. But we also we do use artificial intelligence. We use machine learning and natural language processing. More importantly, we use some data analytics. We use some additional code that we've developed, and now we are moving further and further into the generative AI space as well, to the extent that there are certain workflows that we think it fits very nicely into. We intend to leverage that as well.
And speaking of generative AI, the one thing we have all heard of is ChatGPT. And how is that being used, just in a general, not with you, but in a general sense regarding contracts, and what isn't it doing right in terms of implementing it with construction and contract?
Yeah, it's not like, look, generative AI is incredibly powerful. It is. I mean, anyone who's used it can see and start connecting the dots immediately into like why this is an incredible, application. I recently was reading an article that there are certain applications that must be deterministic versus those that are probabilistic. And so,
Mhm.
at its core, generative AI is probabilistic, meaning that it tends to do really well in like kind of creative, iterative, functionality. Like, make some suggestions for me. They don't need to be right or wrong, but it's more, like I was reading the other day, like using generative AI to make some suggestions on fashion that you may be interested in is highly probabilistic because it very well may teach you and inform your behavior by those suggestions itself.
Right.
On the other hand, if you're calculating your taxes, you can't afford for something to be probabilistic. You need a precise calculation of your taxes, right? So there's some software or some application or workflows which could be very good on the probabilistic side versus the determinative side.
Hmm.
Where we think we're finding some real magic is where we, with a high degree of accuracy, can identify certain issues in your contract, and then you start to, put some of that like secret sauce that is generative AI on top of those very specific issues or use
Hmm.
cases. Then it becomes magic because it takes it a step further. What am I looking for? Why do I care? And here's some other additional actionable information that you may want to consider, based on the way that we are tailoring the generative AI. So, all that to be said, what I do not believe is that generative AI is good enough in an open interface to make deterministic decisions, and I think that's
Hmm.
the trap that some people are getting in right now. Hey, Chat GPT, just draft me a letter. Well, like, where's the context? I mean, okay, maybe you gave it some context, and maybe it's good, but maybe it's not. And so I
Hmm.
think it's just like making sure that you're, on the right side of the line for the right side of the workflow. And I think that people get a little bit, or people are getting lured a little bit into using this for deterministic purposes
Hmm.
when it doesn't have the right context or data to make determinations. And that's where I think, there's a potential trap for this type of chat interface, let's say, being used for deterministic workflows or for people now. Everyone's rushing. It's like a gold rush. All these developers are coming out and essentially just putting a shallow chat interface on top of
Hmm.
something that's broad and maybe potentially subject to amorphous or probabilistic determinations when they need something more determinative or accurate. And I think that's where there's a potential trap that folks that are looking for good solid software may get lured into something that seems really great but doesn't end up delivering on that promise. So I definitely think there's a little bit of an early morning haze hanging over this right now. Everyone is
Hmm.
super impressed by the capabilities and what it could do, but I think as the haze burns off, as this kind of like initial just flurry of interest kind of comes down to earth, I think you're going to find that there's been some really well thought out products that are using this to tighten their offerings even more. And then there's some just really, maybe shallow products that just slap something on top of something else and are hoping that, you know, the gimmick works for their purposes.
Hmm.
I'm in the former camp. At Document Crunch, we're in the former camp. We want to empower people to understand what's in their contracts. We take that responsibility very seriously, and we're not going to roll out gimmicks. We're going to roll out actionable solutions. And so that's kind of how I see the potential pitfalls with this Chat GPT craze, leading to maybe some products that end up being a little bit of fool's gold in terms of what they're truly capable of doing in a consistent way, in a way that really makes construction companies better.
Mhm. Now, construction is listen, I wouldn't say it's all about liability, but liability is certainly something people have to worry about. What are some forms of liability that this new technology sort of raises? Like these are new problems this technology could cause for us in legal terms.
That's a great question. I think again, like when you think about like this concept of fool's gold versus like what's substantive, I think, an over
Hmm.
reliance in something that portends to be something, that it's not. So let me just give you a great example, Warren, because there's a lot being made of the legal space, and that's my background. I do not believe that this is going to replace lawyers. I think that any AI application is only as good as the humans like inputting the initial like data set and kind of some of the prompting and whatever it is. And so like the idea that you're just going to replace professionals and you're going to hold yourself out to replace professionals, like I could see some real liability, ultimately coming there if,
Hmm.
there are people that are relying on this to replace lawyers, or there are people that are truly just saying, yeah, like I don't need, this is my lawyer. That's one thing. I think there's some legitimate data privacy concerns, especially when you talk to some of the bigger contractors that are working with confidential information. That's something that's very topical right now. And then there's probably, candidly, Warren, a whole host of other liability that I haven't even considered yet because this is all still new, which kind of goes back to this idea of, you know, I'm super bullish on this technology. I just think we need to be thoughtful about how we roll it
Hmm.
out, and that's what we're doing at Document Crunch with with the two big pillars being we don't believe we're replacing anyone's lawyer. We never have, and we never will. And we don't believe, and we want to make sure that we're being responsible with data and privacy. And so that's something that this new kind of era is kind of like further highlighted. And so that's something that
Hmm.
definitely is keeping me up as we're working through the best way to roll out this type of technology while still being a responsible steward in the construction industry.
And conversely, and you kind of answered this a little bit by saying we're going to keep humans in the mix, but conversely, how do you use contract intelligence, which is what you're doing, to sort of de-risk situations and legal sort of ramifications, I guess?
Yeah, I don't think that we de-risk the legal ramifications, right, Warren? The legal ramifications are what they are in
Hmm.
terms of you know stuff happens on construction projects, and who bears the risk is going to be
Right.
totally set forth in the parties' agreement. But
Hmm.
by making parties aware of what those issues are, then they have the ability to decide, is this a ramification that I am willing to accept? Or is this something that I should be considering, putting on the other party? Or is this something that I should be pricing around? Or is this something I should be planning around, et cetera, et cetera? So, you know, for me, it's more about awareness and education. If you can make an informed decision, then it is about us actually doing the job. And I'll tell you, Warren, someone who's been in this industry as an executive and like I said, a lawyer for a long time, it was
Hmm.
never my job to make the decision for the company, except in the rarest of circumstances, right? It was more about like bringing issues to the table and bringing some education to the table to allow decision makers to make good decisions. And
Hmm.
so, I'm now the CEO of a software company, right? Information is gold. Like the more I know, the better decisions I can make, the more context I have, the better place I'm in to make those decisions. And so, we're trying to do the same thing with contract intelligence. And so that's kind of one side of this. The second side of this is humans are prone to error, just like our machines are prone to error. But if you augment humans, you put an extra set of eyes essentially on what the
Hmm.
humans are doing, or you can have more assurance that less will slip through the cracks. There's ways that you could potentially start to automate certain workflows, especially at the project level, to make sure that humans are doing the job well. What I found, Warren, is oftentimes in my career and experience, you've got project managers, folks wearing hard hats every day out there that are making a lot of contract compliance decisions, oftentimes without having the context necessary to make the best
Hmm.
decision. And that always plays out after the fact. You've never seen like, a big claim in the construction industry where I take a look at the paperwork and I'm like, oh, we got a slam dunk here. The team just like papered this perfectly. And so
Hmm.
if we could provide a little bit more assurance, a little set of extra eyes, some just in time guidance around those types of compliance issues, it starts to become a really powerful, trend that hopefully can turn our industry into a less risky, more transparent, more collaborative, more informed, more balanced, more harmonious, more profitable industry.
Hmm. And so, if people are interested in Document Crunch, and I would assume if they've listened this long, they are, where would they go to find out more?
Sure. I mean, you could go to www.documentcrunch.com. There's plenty to find out there on the website. You could follow us on LinkedIn, just at the Document Crunch, site. You could follow me, Josh Levy, on LinkedIn as well. We're fairly active. We're definitely out there. And yeah, that's where you can find us.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us today, Josh.
Absolutely, Warren.